Everybody wants to be seen and understood in a relationship, but what happens if it goes unaddressed, and how do you actually start building the tools to see and understand the other person that you're in relationship with, whether platonic or intimate, whether dating and single and connecting with potential partners, or in building a connection with yourself. So what happens if this goes unaddressed? This applies to your relationship with yourself and in relationship with other people. If you stop seeing yourself, if you avoid trying to see and step into somebody else's shoes, resentment is going to build. Resentment with yourself, your higher self, and resentment with the other person. Because whether we're in relationship with ourselves, we're going to start with the relationship with the self. If we are not seeing ourselves, what we're telling our system, what we're telling our higher self, what we're telling our future self and past self is, you don't matter. I abandon you. I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you need. I'm trudging forward. I'm getting stuff done. I'm checking things off the list. I don't have time for you until all these other things are done, and then I'll get to you. Maybe, but I'll probably numb you once I get to you because I don't really want to address you. So I'm going to keep avoiding. And then what happens? This thing comes knocking at the door and it says, see me. And it happens through pain in the body. It happens through anxiety, depression, mental health challenges. It comes out as so many different things. And that self-abandonment tells you, you're telling yourself that you don't matter. And so see yourself, understand yourself, and the world is going to start realigning to show you that you are choosing your worthiness, that you care about how you're doing. So even if you're not looking at this through the relationship with the self, again, secure attachment starts within. And the more that you stop abandoning yourself, the more other people are going to stop abandoning you too, and stop dismissing parts of you that you want to be seen. So you have to see it in yourself first. As cliche as that is, I hope the self-abandonment brings a new reframe to it, that if you're not prioritizing yourself, you can't expect somebody else to. If you don't think these things in you are important, these inner child wounds, these parts of you that just long crave being seen, being understood, why does that person never ask me how I'm doing? That trigger, that surfacing of frustration is because you're dismissing that part of yourself. So stop abandoning yourself and start watching yourself feel more secure and have less happiness based on somebody else, because it really isn't about them, it's about you. So you have to matter. You have to matter first. Resentment is going to build if you aren't willing to step into somebody else's shoes. What was that like to be in their shoes when this happened? What was it like in their childhood? What was it like during that fight that we just had? What was it like when they just had that work day? What was it like when they had to have that conversation with a family member? What was it like? How can you step out of your four corners of your existence and into somebody else's and try to be empathetic, sympathetic, not so self-absorbed? We can, as a society, become really self-absorbed into, this is what it was like for me, I want to talk about myself, and it's because we're all craving being seen and understood. But relationships will not start changing for you unless you are willing to get out of your experience craving and demanding to be seen first and say, what is it like if I step into their shoes first? So what this looks like in practice, it's very simple. Think about what you need to start opening your heart. For everyone, it's feeling like somebody else is able to take responsibility. It's feeling like somebody else is actually taking you into consideration. So if you're trying to have a hard conversation with somebody, my suggestion to all couples, all individuals, is I want you to name what you imagine it may be like for them. But first you say, I want to take responsibility. I could have showed up better here. When I was reflecting on our interaction, I could have showed up better. And this is how. When I tried to step into your shoes, I imagined it may have felt this way. Is that true? Did I get that right? Is there anything I missed? Or could you share how it felt for you? Immediately their heart opens. immediately they see your love and care. They see that you're trying to see and understand them. And then you open up the space for co-created healthy dialogue. That dialogue is really hard to have when you breach a conversation right away with harsh feedback or with a ask, when you aren't showing that other person that you've tried to imagine what it was like in their shoes. So this is a really important process to imagine and ask yourself, what would I need in their shoes to have my heart open? How do I want my heart to open? What do I want from the other person to open my heart? And can I get out of my own way and provide that first? If you can't, then there's some inner tending to your inner garden, weeding out some of the weeds, weeding out some of the depletions, pouring back into yourself, watering yourself, and then you might feel like you can show up with more love. But if you can't show up with love, and again, that can sometimes be, love is not always just like butterflies and rainbows and like it's compassionate, but sometimes it takes clear, direct feedback and conversations. But it always comes from love. It always comes from a place of, I want to deepen the connection with you, and it's going to be out of respect. I'm not going to do it in a disrespectful manner. I'm going to set boundaries, but boundaries are to create more love. Boundaries are to help me show up with more love so that I am not creating a cycle of more pain. Okay? So that's what a great way to start is. That's what it looks like to try to start seeing and understanding somebody else. And you're always asking, hey, like, I want to keep the space open here. Is there anything you want to share? There's not an end of the sentence. That's the end of the conversation. I'm not willing to talk about it more. It's like, hey, how did that feel? How are you doing? Do you have anything you want to share? There can be resentment if that's not created. But if you ask, hey, I just shared some feedback with you, or we just had that hard conversation, what's coming up for you? That is done in love. That is a secure feedback. That is trying to see and understand. And it's really important that you make sure you take that step, that you hold the space open, that you never have conversation when you're in a rush. You always make sure there's enough space to hold the emotions that surface, and that you have the emotional capacity in order to have those conversations. So Brené Brown talks about an awesome tool, the percentage tool. You're not going to have you and the other person are not going to be at 100% all the time. So ask each other, what percentage are you at right now? Hey, if we're both like under 50%, we probably shouldn't have this conversation. Maybe we take an hour to ourselves and then we say, hey, are we like above 50%? Do we think we have the capacity to set an hour aside right now and chat, or 30 minutes? Or I would say never have the container be shorter than an hour if you're going into these conversations where you really want to be seen and understood. You want to create safe space where things aren't rushed, that you feel like it can be equal. Honestly, sometimes an hour isn't even enough. So check in with yourselves. I know time is of the essence, and in our society we're always craving more time, but that's really important in being seen and understood, to not create this scarcity mindset, because a lot of us operate in this scarcity lack wound. It's in our root, and when we're operating from that, if time feels restricted, the safety and the security is not going to be there in the conversation. So always open up a conversation, trying to step into somebody else's shoes, first taking responsibility, then imagining what it was like for them, and then asking for clarification if there's anything they want to share. And then you can go into making an asking for something to shift and change, giving some feedback. But this process is really important to say, hey, what would I need to have my heart open? And maybe you even ask for that from your partner, from this other person. But we all are in this deficit, so to speak, in our society. I believe we're in a societal epidemic of disconnection, where we're all craving real, authentic, raw connection. And we must get out of our own way and start showing ourselves, start expressing ourselves, start saying, I have to show up with all parts of myself. And that is part of why is this here, why is this dynamic here, is because we've been hiding. We've been conditioned to hide, to hold back. And so the real change, why is this gap here between where we are and where we want to be? It's all about self-expression. So I hope that supports you this week, and more to come in the weeks that follow.